Fam, we're back outside. A little nighttime activities, some nighttime podcasting. And I'm excited for it. I'm excited because this conversation that we're about to have is one that kind of just came out of sporadically, right? There wasn't something that I've really been thinking about too often. And I was actually giving thanks to God about just, how happy I am with the progress, of how things are going with the company, just being grateful. Like, Lord, thanks so much. And I just, it brought me back to when I first started this, right? When I first started the channel, when I first started just this whole process of just, picking up a camera and talking to it and talking to you guys and how far like things have come, with the company, with myself and just speaking with you guys, how many of you guys have just reached out and been like, hey, yo, this is really helping me out, which honestly, that before I say anything else, is really something that I do see the comments. I do read them, I read the messages, on all different platforms, and it is cool to see how something that I thought, was just something I'm going to try it out, right? How far it's grown. And honestly, I give it, thanks to God first and to you guys, for always like saying, hey, man, congratulations, good job. And I'm not seeking that. Obviously, I'm not saying that that's a validation I need, because if God called me to it, I'm going to do it no matter what, whether one person watches me or a million people watch me. But for me, it was the act of like remembering, right? Of going back and like, wow, like how far things have come. And then it made me think about how many times, and it's something I kind of got like, I looked at myself, how many times do I like put off and procrastinate doing a video, doing a talk, doing some notes or whatever and posting it up, when before I didn't have any of this, right? I had my phone, I had a really small basic camera, didn't have the lighting system I have now, and I was just so hungry, like, oh, I don't care how it looks, I'm gonna post it. And now I'm just here like, is the lighting right? Is there gonna be noise? And I'm just worried about all that. And I'm being vulnerable with you guys, right? And I'm not saying obviously you want to have a good product, you want to be able to go and show it and give your best to God and give your best to the audience, whoever was watching it. But when did we? And I had something I had to ask myself. When did we get so preoccupied with the instrument and not the person playing it? Right? Why did we? When did we start thinking about so much? Oh, what camera do I have? What computer do I have? What paintbrush do I have? What phone do I have? We were about all these things, but if you take let's say, right, let's say a guitar. We use that example. You get a guitar, right? Pop, you place it. I heard this example, which is why I'm going to use it. And you give it to someone, right? They're playing super really good, like Santana. I don't know if you guys know him, right? Like someone from AC/DC or some like a really good person on a guitar, right? Or piano, whatever. And you give it to them, they're just playing it, pound, they're ripping it. They're amazing music, beautiful music. It's phenomenal, right? But if it's just sitting there, it's just an instrument. It could be a really nice one, could be really good, has a really good sound to it. But if it's just sitting there, it's not going to do anything. Right? You get a microphone, right? You give it to a person that doesn't know how to sing. Not going to sound so good. You give someone that can sing very well, they sing, and it sounds amazing, because it's not the instrument. It's the person who's using it, right? And when I thought about that, I was like a little like shake to myself, like, hey, bro, like, don't worry about it so much, which is why like, I started doing this more often, like, grabbing a light, just turn the camera on, just no crazy effects, no crazy settings, no crazy, just nothing like that. Just boom, talk to you guys like I did before. When it's just in my room with one light, the lighting wasn't good, it wasn't really color graded properly, but we just spoke, right? It was something that I just got in front of the camera and I spoke to you guys. And it was ironic because a really good friend of mine, he knows who he is, where he sent me a little like meme that's like, oh wow, your camera takes such great pictures. And it was like a joke because like we always joke around like, oh man, like it's never the person behind the camera, it's always the camera. And it's just an inside joke between him and I. We talk about it. You know who you are if you're watching this. But it's more there's more depth to that when you look at it that way, right? It's not the camera, it's not the mic, it's not the whatever, right? It's you. It's the talent that God put inside of your heart, inside your life, right? I've said it multiple times before. Our talents are God's gift to us. What we do with them is our gift to God. And if you look at it that way, you start to cherish what God gave you. That voice, that creativity, that mind, that physical ability, to play a sport or whatever it is, to speak in front of people, whatever it is. If you understood the value of that, let's put it this way. I'll just give you a really good example. Let's say on Instagram, right? You post a picture and you only get like 50 likes, let's say. You're like, oh, only 50 likes. I thought I'd it'd be so much better. I know as a creative, like you post something, you think, wow, it's such a banger, such a great photo. And you're like, oh, cool, it got 40 views. If you look at the other way around, it's 40 people that saw your picture, right? Obviously, we're compared to like these millions of people, right? But 40 people saw that. Let's say, right? You put a YouTube video up, boom. And it's like, oh man, excuse me, oh man, I only had 300 views. 300 people saw your video. Imagine a room and then filling up 300 people and then talking to them. When you look at it that way, it's like, oh, hold on, you know what? That's might not be that bad. Or let's say like, oh man, but like I only got 2 views out of that. Maybe one of those views was someone that inspired them because they're about to take their life. Maybe you inspired someone to go to that next day. Maybe you inspired someone to go and have that conversation, with somebody else. Maybe you inspired someone to go and just pick up a camera and start vlogging their life or start taking pictures or start, doing makeup or singing or whatever. Maybe you inspired that one person. And that person inspires another person. And there's a chain reaction. You do things in your everyday that people that you take for granted that people wish they could do. As simple as walking. Some people can't walk. Some people can't sing. Some people can't see their family members. Some people and I don't want to get negative about it, but we sometimes take things for granted. And it's like, if you looked at it from the other side, like, wow, you know what? Lord, thank you that I get to do this today. Thank you I get to see my parents. Thank you I get to see my siblings. I get to see my wife, my husband, my kids. Thank you to have a job. Thank you to have a home. Whatever it is that, we might take for granted. There are things that I'll say it like this. You know what? This is a better way of saying it because it's also in English because I was about to say in Spanish. You are in the middle of what you used to pray for. I said that multiple times. You are in the middle of what you used to pray for. Yeah? Because when we look at it like that, like, you know what, Lord? I'm praying for this. I'm praying for that. Bam. And then you get to that point and you're going through a struggle, let's say, of like trying to grow it. But 2 years ago, you were just hoping to get in front of a camera. A few months ago, you going and getting in front of, your family to sing was like the biggest thing ever. Now you're upset because you're not booking stadiums for with you and your band. Like that's the perspective. Yeah. So I'll say that one more time. You were in the middle of what you used to pray for. Cherish this moment and remember why you started in the first place. Keep pushing, keep striving, and keep getting after it. Yeah? When we do that, it pushes us to the next level. It gives us a new, refreshing look on things. And maybe, and this is something that I'll give you a little quick tip from Rodz. Maybe you need to go, obviously get your work together first, put that going and take a step back, right? And go back and remind yourself why you started in the first place, why you started that channel, why you started singing, why you started serving, why you started this job, why you started insert your thing there, right? Because sometimes we get so used to the mundane things like, okay, I got up, I went to the gym, I went to work, came back, cooked dinner, did this and that, go to sleep, repeat. And we get so used to this mundaneness. Well, why you start in the first place? Why? Because you loved it. And I'm not saying obviously your job can change, things can get kind of rough and things can, things can kind of rough, things can kind of I'm kind of tired, nothing's really happening, there's no progress. All right, cool. Well, then either one of two things. Either you need to insert new energy back into that job, back into that field, back into whatever, or maybe God's calling you to go to the next step. Maybe God's like, all right, cool. You've passed your time. Your time of being there has expired. Now it's a level up. But you don't want to level up because it's familiar. And I'll talk about this too. Just because something familiar doesn't mean it's fruitful. Maybe because you're just sitting here oh, I'm just happy. It's not amazing. And I'm not super happy, but I'm also not sad. Well, all right. Well, let's step out of that comfort zone. Let's break out of that little sphere, that little glass box. And let's go to that next step. Yeah? That is something that I have to remind myself, every now and then. All right, you know what? Hey, you don't need the best gear. You don't need this craziness. You just need you, God, and the ability and not even the ability, the willingness, right? Because God will give you the ability, right? He'll give you the ability to go and stand in front of someone and start talking. He'll give you the ability to go and just move on and take that next step and talk to that person and, go and execute that mission that God has for you. You don't need to have the ability all the time. You just need to have the willingness to do it. Oh, that's a word right there. Don't get so caught up in the ability part that you forget about the willingness. If you're willing, God will get you there. He'll push you where you need to go. He'll set people up where you need to be set up at. And your name is being spoken in rooms that you have no idea that you're about to walk into. that might be that. Like, you're just so preoccupied with what's coming up next. God's already set the plan out for you. He set it out. He laid it out. It's just our job now to go and fulfill it and just to go and walk through it. Yeah, that's a really good word. Actually, when I think about that, like that is something that is very true. If we're willing to go and put in the work, God is going to show, to be there for us. He's going to show out every single time. Yeah, because who are we, right, to go and think, oh, no, I got it by myself. Well, you know what? No, it's not my time yet just to move. God's called you to move. God's called you to go to that next step. So go do it. Like, I don't know why we sometimes, I don't say all the time, I say we, because I put myself in that category too. We start thinking, well, God, you know what? Like, this isn't right just yet. Let me get a couple more rounds in. Let me get a couple more, things going on. Let me get a couple more reps in. And God's like, I didn't call you to get more reps in. I told you to go and do this. Hey, yeah, can you show up? Because if you won't, someone else will. And that's the hard part right there. A lot of times we're like, Lord, but what happens? Why am I not going up for this? Why is this not happening for my life? Like, why is, Billy Bob, he went and he's progressing and he's been in this less than me. Well, Billy Bob, he's full sending it. He's like, Lord, what are we doing? We got to go that way? Cool. We got to go that way? Cool. And they're not worried about it. Yeah, that's what we need to keep that hunger. We need to bring that fire back into our lives, back into our careers, back into our whatever it is you have, or whether it's a company, whether it's for school, whether it's in a marriage, a friendship, whatever it is, bring that fire back. Yeah, I'll leave it with that. Bring that fire back and know that if God is calling you to do it, He's going to provide everything you need to get you to that next step, to get you to that next mission, to get you to the next level, and whatever happens, God's in control. Yeah? I love you guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of these talks. I'll see you next week. Stay safe, and as always, make it the best day ever.